So tell us a little bit about what brings you here.
I'm one of the writer-creators of For All Mankind, and this is our big premiere. Pretty exciting, so yeah.
Science fiction has been an integral part of my life.
What do you love about it so much?
The creativity and the overall storytelling inside of that creativity has been overwhelming. I loved Battlestar. I loved Blade Runner, both of them.
I loved the Ryan Gosling First Man. I thought that was a wonderful movie, and we were in the middle of shooting this when I saw that, so it had particular resonance, and I was watching him dealing with all the technical stuff and spouting all the technical language, and I was struggling to learn all the technical language myself, so I felt like the empathy of another actor for that, yeah.
It was one of these ideas we thought, could we really get away with doing this? And I think the more we went, and Apple's excitement for it really propelled us to kind of take it further than we even imagined.
We do a fictional story in the series, and it's a fictional moon landing, and it's a fictional story of who landed on the moon first, etc. And in that story, they made it as real for me as you could ever imagine.
So we came up with the idea with Ron Moore. He had the idea, we kind of were into the space program, and he had the idea of what if the Russians landed on the moon first? And I think those two things came together and we realized this is a great way to tell the story of what should have happened.
There was a small group that actually did happen in the 60s called the Mercury 13, when for a tiny moment it looked like NASA in real life would let women go to the moon. So I did a lot of research into the Mercury 13. That program was then shut down and nothing ever came of it, which was devastating. But it was fun to imagine that Molly, my character, had been part of that 13 and now was being given a chance to be selected again.
I was fascinated by, I went through the Challenger experience when I was growing up, watching that in my school when I was younger. And I remember how much that engaged me into the whole NASA program. And to be able to actually get the call that you're going to play Neil Armstrong it's still unbelievable. The reality is you just want to approach it in a way that I think that is as honest as it can be.
Well, it's interesting. We talk about this with Ron a lot, where his early experience was the landing on the moon. But for me, it was the Challenger explosion. I think it was, as a child, that's what I remember, when the program sort of started losing funding, losing a lot of what propelled us. And for me, I'd hear the stories of the Apollo program and the excitement of space travel, but I didn't see it as a child. So I think for me, reading about it when I got older, and all the plans we had to not only go to the moon, but go to Mars, to build space stations, I realized a lot of these programs were in place and were defunded in the 70s when we beat the Russians. Essentially, there was no more interest in it. So I think that concept of the Russians landing on the moon propels us further. The competition, the idea of we're underdogs, like many things in progress, propels us to go further. So the show starts with that idea of, okay, there's this little thing, they landed first, and then you just see the change as it happens.
I don't know how much I can tell you right now. It was immersive. Ron made it immersive. He made it immersive from the moment you walked on set to the point to where you walked home thinking about it still.
It was, I tell you, it was like being a kid, and there they built like Mission Control, and it looked exactly like it, and they were just real astronauts roaming around, and you could just ask questions of them. I mean, it was very cool. It was cool to be it felt like being a kid.
I think everyone who walks into our Mission Control set, which he designed literally to every ceiling tile is the shape and size of the ceiling tiles of the original Mission Control. So you walk in there and everyone is just blown away. And I think across the board, every spaceship, every module, everything looks so real. And I think that was really important to us, the idea of if we're going to tell an alternate history, we want it to feel as grounded and real as possible. So the feeling is when people are watching the show, I think the question I love that people ask is, wait, did that really happen? That comes up a lot. So I think that's the fun of this, is because it's so real, because everything feels so grand. I mean, it's beautiful. And we had a lunar surface on one stage. We had different modules on different stages. So it was like being a kid again, really, walking through our sets. It really is special.
Apollo 13, for example, is kind of the gold standard. They worked really, really hard, even flew in parabolic airplanes to actually get zero gravity. They did everything perfect, very, very close to perfect. So, and actually it's really interesting, as we were doing some of the sets, I'll tell you a little secret. We were doing some of the sets for our show, and I saw the art department, they had pictures and stills from Apollo 13, the movie. And I'm like, why are you using that as a reference when we could take actual pictures of like the real mission control from Apollo. We have those. And they said, listen, no, Garrett, you don't understand. The audience, when they think about this, in their head is the movie. That's what they relate to. That's their point of reference, because that movie was so realistic that people actually, if we're different than the movie, it will be more incongruent to the audience than if we're different from the real thing.
We just did an immersive reality where we were behind black screen doing a certain encapsulated look, and you could feel the loneliness. You could feel how amazing it was in one part, but also how detached and how terrifying it was on the other hand.
The first time I looked out at the planet and I saw how thin the atmosphere was and how fragile. I mean, it looks like a gust of wind could come by and just strip it all away. And that's like all the air we have to breathe. And that was really terrifying, actually. And I didn't expect that. I mean, I knew what it was going to look like. I saw pictures, but when you see that with your own eyes, it left a huge impression. So I'd have to say that.
And now can you expand a little bit on seeing Latinos in space? Because honestly, we aren't represented as much. And why do you think that is, and what do you think we can do about it?
Well, first of all, we're not represented in space because we're not represented on Earth either. So,
Dang, that's deep.
yeah, and you got to remember that cultural diversity and cultural dynamic in the art forms is what we're really trying to understand and balance. The day that's in balance, I think that you'll find that the world will be a better place to live in.
Thank you so much for watching. Make sure to like this video, subscribe for more, and in the comments down below, let us know who is your favorite astronaut. This is Amy Martinez, ready for blast off. Whoosh.